And the thing about Kareem, can I tell you a quick Kareem story?
Yeah, and I'll tell you one too.
Kareem has the worst publicist I've ever seen in my life, ever, ever. It's ridiculous, and it's not a secret in the business how he's been mismanaged his whole career. And when I was working on my book, Showtime, I kept asking her I want to talk to Kareem. I want to talk to Kareem. And she would always be like, no, what kind of money are you offering? No, the whole thing. I went to the Basketball Hall of Fame induction ceremonies the year Jamal Wilkes, a former Laker, was getting inducted, because I had arranged some time with Jamal. And I knew Kareem was going to be there. And I texted this woman, his publicist, whose name I won't use. And I said, hey, I'm here just in case. And she writes back and she goes, oh, I have amazing news for you. Can we meet? And I was like, yeah, this is great. He's going to talk to me. This is amazing. And she goes, all right, Jeff, amazing news. Kareem wants to partner with Sports Illustrated and do a roving display of his memorabilia. So like Sports Illustrated could sponsor it and we could have a truck and we could go around the country. And Kareem, I had not worked for Sports Illustrated for 10 years. Also,
then I read your 1999 thing where you slandered Howie Long, allegedly.
Exactly.
As the other writer.
It's just insane. And this woman, Kareem, is one of the smartest, most impressive.
Oh, he's so fucking smart, dude.
And he's been so mishandled. I just think he's been so mishandled. He should be an ambassador for athletes. He's the most intelligent voice out there.
Oh, I love his writing. I love his writing. Like usually when somebody weighs in, including myself on like a social issue, I'm like, shut the fuck up. But when Kareem, when somebody writes a long, like, you know, like the length of Kyler Murray's agent's note today, like, you know, an op-ed. I don't want to say that all the time. I'm a little harsh because a lot of my peers have worked on social justice issues. But I'm just saying nobody holds a candle to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Not what he lived through, not the eloquence with which he speaks on the topics, not the way he's thoughtful. Like, he is just the gold standard intellectually as a pro athlete to me. Now, the other side of that is what you describe in the book, which is that, like, he's prickly. And I don't blame him. Like, I was hurt for him hearing about, you know, like a kid in New York who grew up with trust issues because of racism, go figure, and his height and kind of like just the way people would look at him and that sort of thing. Like his high school coach at Power Memorial was like the one white guy he confided in. It was like it was like another family member, and the guy at the half of like one of the bigger games of the season tries to challenge him and motivate him by calling him the N-word. Yeah. I mean, like, and that's the context. And when he gets to UCLA and doesn't want to talk to people necessarily because they don't give a fuck about him, the man, they care about him, the basketball player, people are throwing their hands up like, I don't get this uppity kid. Like, that's the context with which a lot of these athletes grew up. And especially like somebody like Kareem, who was such an intellectual kind of outlier. I totally get it. And I met him at the ESPYs one year. And this is my Kareem story, is like, my dad knew Kareem playing in LA and told me like he was a great guy. And so that's kind of my context, like walking up to Kareem. And I did not know about like the Kareem kind of like thing. You know, I'm living under a rock. I hadn't read one of your books yet. And I just was like, I said, Mr. Abdul-Jabbar or something. Like, I don't know what you said.
You like to shorten names. You sure you didn't go Reem?
Reem. No, I didn't say Reem.
Big man.
Yeah. That's the Matthew McConaughey rule. I called him Matt, like first second he came on the pod, and he corrected me. It's like a pick six the first drive of a football game. Ended up being just a fine interview. But I stopped Mr. Abdul-Jabbar walking out, and I felt like this wasn't a bad area to do it. Like, we were kind of walking the same direction. I was like, hey, I'm a big fan of you, like, as a guy, man. I just want to say I appreciate it. And, you know, I was wondering if I could get a picture. I wouldn't do this very often. And he kind of just looked at me, and I was like, yep. I was like, my bad. Like, I'm a pro athlete. Like, I should know. And he said, what's your name? And I said, Chris Long. And when it clicked that I was Howie's son, his whole demeanor changed. He was so warm and so kind and so awesome and nice, and stopped to talk to me for 5 minutes. Right. Everything's about trust with that guy. And I don't blame him one bit.
Did you get the photo?
I got the photo, and I look fucking terrified. There's two pictures that I have that I will not share with very famous people. One's with Sandra Bullock, my childhood crush, and I looked mortified. And then that one with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Those are both in the private. It's a private collection, but just such an interesting character. If I was writing, I would be nervous about him. But you seem to because you've told the truth the whole time about the whole deal.
Well, I also think the thing is like as a journalist, and I've really come to embrace this as I've gotten older. It's very easy for all of us to be like, oh, that guy, he's such a dick, right? Oh, that guy's such a dick. Why are you such a dick? But the really early on in my career, I wrote the story about John Rocker, racist baseball player. That was kind of my big Sports Illustrated story.
I read that one.
The thing that sucks about it in hindsight is, to me, he was just a dick racist. And what's really interesting is how did he become a dick racist? Like, how does someone become the person he is? And Kareem, like we just talked about, yeah, he's standoffish and he's hiding in a bathroom stall when they would fly in the airports and reading a book in the stall so no one approaches him.
Yeah.
That's the surface level. Wow, what a jerk. He's standoffish. He's telling kids he won't sign autographs. Well, how did he become that way? And then you look at his childhood and you look at the coach, you use the N-word on him and you look at these things. And that's really the joy of journalism, is finding out these things. And as you become older and you do this more often, that's the stuff I just love.
And I feel like the brighter the athlete, the more resentment that athlete has towards people that just want to oversimplify who that person is.
Of course. Or they don't care. One or the other. They just don't care, or they resent it.
Or it irks the fuck out of them, which I think it did with Kareem.